What in the world are you doing? Honestly seems like the right decision. What the? Is that... They just die? I still get it. Yes, it's bad, but it's either 2 dead or 1. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ben and today I'll be reacting to the Acolyte episode 7. Now this is the episode before the final and I'm hoping that it continues the trend of what at least the last episode kind of did, in just a bit of improvement in quality. I think overall, I think it's safe to assume that my impression of this show is mediocre. It just has so many flaws. It's definitely not exceptional by any means, but I have enjoyed moments. So I think this probably isn't something I would rewatch, but I think if I did rewatch it, I would gain more from it, just understanding it and trying to figure out stuff. But I don't think my enjoyment would be increased from that. There's still so many flaws in the writing and in how the writer is trying to show off different perspectives of these different cultures and different sides of stuff instead of the Jedi. But the show is still set in the perspective of Osha, and Osha has not been a very well built lead character, so it all kind of falls apart when you look at it that from Osha's perspective, which going into the show, that's what you naturally do. Going into the show, knowing everything and looking at it from the perspective of others, that probably makes it you understand it more, but I don't think it adds much more enjoyment. My enjoyment from it basically comes from the villain and the fight scenes, and that is kind of very surface level sort of thing. Villain comes off very creepy, like that stuff. His motivation still just seems very off, and the fight scenes, awesome. So those stuff, enjoy, but I think that's where my enjoyment is going to end up being placed. I am looking forward to this episode and the final, just to see if it can continue the trend of good quality, because last episode it was that. I enjoyed that episode. Soul and May's side of it, that was kind of weird, but Kaime and Osha's side of it was better. That's something I want to see, saying the Sith train of people, lead them into the dark side. Just that premise itself worked well, but Osha did not feel like she belonged there yet. I don't think she's sort of earned being into the dark side at the minute. She still feels very much like she's just been shoved there without much effort or backing in the story. But yeah, as always, if you do enjoy this video, please remember to like and subscribe, as it really does help the channel to grow. And if you do enjoy my content and you want to help support the channel, I do have a Patreon, the link will be in the description. Over there I'm uploading these videos and the full reaction a week in advance, so if that's something you're interested in, feel free to check it out. With that said, let's just dive on in. Okay, another flashback. Interesting. Not really flashback, just different point in time. Going back here, please don't be like episode 3. What are they doing? It just seems they've got a metal detector. They're just shoving grass and stones into machines. That's just odd.
We've been here for 7 weeks, and there's no one here, and if we were going to find something, we probably would have found it by now.
7 weeks, really? Looking at rocks and plants and dirt.
What we were doing was somehow important or meaningful.
We are looking for a virgins.
So this kid just didn't know whatever was going on, just been told to sit here for 7 weeks, like going through grass and dirt and rocks.
Could create life, like what we see on this planet. It's a power that should be studied.
Okay.
This is a noble mission.
Interesting. So you were looking for the twins anyway, you just didn't know they were the twins that were the virgins. So would Anakin be also a virgin? So then, because that's the Force creating life. And I still feel like it's better if the Force does and not other people doing it.
Nor are we sure that it's the cause of life on Brendok.
So the virgins is just... So they mentioned a hyperspace disaster. Is this whole planet fueled by the witches then? Do they create life on this entire planet? Because they said all the other things are lifeless, but this one has life. So this entire forest was like because of the virgins, which is what the witches did, or they used the virgins. So maybe the virgins isn't the witches, and they just used whatever this thing is to create life themselves.
We haven't covered the Northlands yet. Meet us back at the camp.
Okay.
And in the past, again, we just see Soul and not get much more on the rest of the Jedi, which is kind of disappointing. Even now, we don't get more on them. Just to feel bad that they're dead. Is the tree the virgins? It stands out a lot. So he's seen that the children are being trained in the Force, and immediately sees it's quite a dark power. I'm not gonna look at the tree. I feel like the tree could be here. Like, if that is the virgins, and that's the thing that's creating life, the witches could have used stuff from the tree to make children themselves. So technically that wouldn't be them using the Force to make children. That would be them using the tree that was created by the Force to make children. Like if someone used Anakin's blood to replicate what that did. That I could get on board with. Now he's seeing all that, so we're seeing his perspective of everything.
We are not alone. Indara.
Yep, there are witches on this planet. He follows them. And he sees the giant fortress. How big was this fortress again? Could it not have been seen from the sky when they were flying in? It feels like it was pretty big. Yes, it's very big. So they did not see it. There we go, seeing that they're training for combat.
Go. It's your room.
Does that sound there in episode 3? Can't remember. And the hole again. What's with the hole? That hasn't been explained. So he's seeing the witches, and they're seeing that they are the dark side.
Besides, Night Sisters don't raise younglings, let alone train them.
Yeah. What would Ventress be classed as? She was still a young child, but then she was a Padawan, but they still have children.
The witches prepare for a ceremony tonight. What if the girls are in danger?
Yeah, makes sense. And vandalism, great.
Must be an old mining site.
Gilnaga, slice the controls.
More vandalism, that's lovely.
We should go as a team.
Fine. But we must be vigilant.
Okay, so just breaking in without being asked, that's lovely. So already setting them off as bad people. So yeah, this episode's probably going to explore whatever happened on one may blame the Jedi for. That's what we're going to see. I'm just hoping it's better than episode 3. And yep, arriving unannounced.
I am Anastasia, mother of this coven. These women are under my protection.
You're trespassing.
And yep, hostile, but kind of great to be.
The all-knowing Jedi were ignorant of their surroundings.
And more passive aggressiveness.
I find that hard to believe.
And she's inside your mind, doing the dark side stuff.
Torben, Jedi Padawan,
Oh, it's way more personal, isn't it? Great. That does not make you look good.
strong and good Jedi. But you have natural desires you suppress.
Yeah, she's coming off as very evil now. Yeah.
I can help you. I can help you. I can help you. I can help you.
Offering deals to do things.
Oh, sure. May we meet your sister?
Oh, that was before. That wasn't even then. Okay, so she's doing more mindness. Not even, like, got the black eyes yet.
Your master denies you.
Trying to sow seeds of conflict between them. They're not good.
I would always let you have what you need. Why not ask me? Why not ask me?
Am I meant to feel bad that the witches are all dead? I don't feel bad.
I want to return to Coruscant.
Really? You're bored and you're making deals with the devil. So he gave himself over to the mind possession? Really?
You cannot deny that Jedi have the right to test potential Padawans. With your permission, of course.
That's not saying anything about the guy back there. They didn't do that in episode 3, did they? It was very weird that the Master Jedi isn't, like, all that concerned.
That was clever. Suggesting we test the girls.
No, I'm going to talk about what happened to him?
Ceremonial markings are customary in many cultures in the galaxy.
Yeah.
I worry she's not safe.
That's true. She may have resisted being marked.
Okay, you're seeing the good side of all this and why they're doing this.
Do not confuse what Osha wants with what you want.
Okay, that's... We're getting a bit more on this other Jedi. I've forgotten their name already. But it's interesting. So, was it true? No, because it's very clearly Osha's decision. She wanted to be a Jedi. That was it. Getting more on you. What did you do so bad that you had to kill yourself? Can't be just that you had a mind torment.
I just need to take a sample of your blood. Is that okay?
They really don't come off as very warm, do they, the Jedi? They're just very cold.
Tell us what you see.
A spaceship.
I mean, Sol saw with the Force, so he knows they're lying.
Do you like it? It's very beautiful. Ascension must be very important to include a marking like that.
Okay, good.
Ascension means Osha and I will lead the coven.
But your children, how can you become the leaders?
I
Don't know. I do like that Jedi now, getting a bit more. Bit sadder that you're dead now, because you seem very nice.
Everyone must be sacrificed to fulfill their destiny.
That's not good.
With your permission, I would like to try a different approach with the other child.
And he gets the answer, so they know that May was also Faye and didn't do the right thing there.
Thousands like us. But you must have the courage to say what you want.
I'm still on Sol's side, though, even like outside of just giving choice-ish stuff. Because the cult is still a bad thing in general. They created children just so their little cult wouldn't die out. And their like practices just seem very backwards and like their understanding of the Force, how they because they're the ones that sort of wouldn't allow choice as well. And then they're also in the dark side, so you're also teaching children to be in the dark side. That's not a good thing.
Planet.
Correct.
And Darva, that's your name. So what are you thinking? What are you doing?
You, Sol, and Kalnaka continue the field work. I'll wait here until Coruscant makes contact with.
When they see the DNA, are they only going to see like one strand of DNA, or is like Star Wars not that advanced yet? They only count midichlorians.
The council said no.
Yeah.
They will not sanction or separating them from their coven.
But there's something dangerous about those women.
Yeah.
They say that we have interfered too much already.
Will they let us come home at least?
No.
No, oh dear.
Do not alter this little girl's destiny because you have formed an emotional attachment to her.
No, it's still a very bad place to keep children. You're teaching children to stay in the dark side. You saw the eyes.
Do what's best for Osha.
You don't get to decide that.
We're looking at outside of the perspectives of the witches and the coven and the Jedi and the children. There's very clear good and bad going on here. Light and dark is not ambiguous. It's very clear that one thing is in the light, one thing is the dark. Children should not be brought into the dark side of the Force and be trained in that.
Even identical twins would have different symbionts. This is impossible without some kind of manipulation.
You know, the virgins.
Unconsciousness into two bodies?
Only a virgin could create that type of power.
Okay, so the virgins isn't the twins, but is something else. What is the virgins then?
We just need proof of the virgins, and those girls are the proof. This is our ticket home.
So he's an idiot then. So he's just stupid. And going to, okay, I hate Torben. It's not even like sad that he's dead, I just don't like him. Okay, the scene with good acting again. But still, so I'm trying to get my head around Torben and what that guy's doing.
Discuss the situation with everyone here, but we will consider your wish when we do so.
Are they gonna let it go? I don't think so. I'm still concerned on what on earth is the virgins. Is it the twins or is it something else that they then used to create the twins? Like the Force did something, they found it and then they used it. I would be more on board than that than the mother just being able to tap into the Force and create children like on a whim.
You want to stop Osha from leaving? Then stop her.
What?
Jedi will not warn you before they attack.
Well, you're wicked. You're a terrible mother.
Good girl. Get mad.
Dark side, okay. And so did the mother just basically encourage May to go and kill Osha?
Her wish must be considered.
You may be their mother, but you are also our leader.
So I'm not gonna let her go?
No one can get in or out.
Witches, arm yourselves.
Okay, so we're seeing that the mum has basically fueled May into a psychopath. The mum so far hasn't like encouraged May to go kill her though. That's different.
You can't go. We're stuck here now.
And not the killing bit. So again, what it's trying to do is trying to seem that she's sympathetic. It's trying to say that May had someone else encouraging her to do all this stuff. But so far that one hasn't even considered killing Osha.
May, let me out.
They're kind of just ignoring the line. See, cutting out the killing line makes this make more sense in like the mother being the one to sort of encourage May to go do this. But May still said the line, "I will kill you to stop you from leaving." That is psychopathic. That doesn't change. This doesn't change anything.
What is happening?
The Jedi have breached the fortress again.
I told you we cannot use violence.
You went inside someone's head and mentally tortured them.
Die before I let the Jedi take my children.
Yeah, you're fully on board with one trying to kill the other. Yep, trying to make it look sympathetic. And stone. Okay, it's trying to make it look like the oil is catching fire, but still, it's on the stone. On the electricity and the wires, that's caught fire. Why was this just not? Why wasn't episode 3 and this just in the same one? It would have helped things make so much more sense, and it wouldn't been. I wouldn't have scrutinized the whole stone thing that much because that didn't look like it was the full stone. But because they're doing the whole thing with perspectives again. The first one was Osha's perspective. This is May's perspective. But still, they've ignored the line where May says that she's going to kill her, setting up that she's a psychopath. Now they're trying to make it seem like that isn't the case, and that May is sympathetic, and that her mother is making her do this and encouraging her to do this. So trying to put the blame on the horned one.
The twins, where did they come from?
Okay, get to the bottom of this. What is the virgins?
Someday those noble intentions you all have will destroy every Jedi in the galaxy.
Now.
Help!
Osha!
Help me!
No. Oh, going to kill. What in the world are you doing? Which one is this? Is this Osha or May? I can't tell the difference. What are you doing? You just became a weird mist thing? Why? Honestly seems like the right decision. Why on earth would you do that?
I was going to let Osha go.
You couldn't have done that any better way of just saying it.
It's what she wants.
You told them they were foolish to come back here. You threatening that the nobility is going to make their downfall. Oh no, I was going to let her go. It's all your fault. Like the weird smoke form monster thing. Why? I'm assuming that she was trying to get everyone into everyone's heads to calm everyone down. So okay, so Anastasia's trying to get into everyone's heads to stop them from fighting. Why on earth would you decide to show yourself as a giant freaky smoke monster covered in black and then have your eyes go black? That was not the way to do that. Oh wow. Again, good fight scenes. Happy with this. He won't fight you. And that explosion happens. Great.
They're locked inside.
Not going to try and protect your children? You're still going to try and kill them. And you became mist. Wait, so that's not in their heads? You just did that? So that means Anastasia wasn't in their heads then? That was actual physical?
No. My mind is fortified.
No, it is in your minds. They are very evil. I'm fully on board with the Jedi side. Yep, evil. You can try and justify it by looking at different perspectives of what's going on, but still, if you're going outside of all perspectives and just looking at light side, dark side, it's very clear that there's a right and wrong here. I mean, at least there is... Yes, at least there is a fight scene with the Wookiee Jedi that I'm happy with. Shame that he's not in his right mind, though. So yeah, the witches aren't concerned about saving their children. They're just happy to let them die in the fire. Oh. Oh, well done. Oh dear, very close. This should have been with episode 3. There's added stuff to the Jedi, apart from the Wookiee. And it's added more interesting to the story. Like, see? This, that's how I got his scar then. See, this would have... Because now we've just followed, like, 6 episodes of May being a psychopath. When it turns out someone else was forcing her to do that. Still doesn't explain the killing line, but it makes her more sympathetic. That should have been included in episode 3. Yeah, I don't think you can beat a Wookiee. Where's the other Jedi? This is so evil. There she is. Yep, and it's adding more to you. It should have been the start of the show. What the? Is that... They just die? Okay, yeah, no, I don't even blame the Jedi then. They didn't kill the witches, they ended up killing themselves. They took over someone, dark, the Jedi freed that person. In the end result, they killed the witches. That thing exploded, yeah. And here he comes to save them.
Mama's dead. What have you done?
Oh, is it a choice? Does he decide not to save May because she will tell Osha, depriving him of a Padawan? Oh, so he actually grabbed the stairs. He's gonna choose one. I was gonna let May die. I mean, it's kind of a tricky situation. You know that there's not really gonna be a future for May. Yeah. I still get it. Yes, it's bad, but it's either 2 dead or 1. I don't see him as bad. That situation though, he was either both of them dying or 1. No matter what the choice, it's still a bad decision, but at least he managed to save her life. You guys can say it's bad that he chose because of May saw him kill the mother, so she's never going to make a good Padawan, and he had favoritism over Osha. But still.
I'm sorry.
Wait, so is that it? Is this why Torben, like, tries to kill himself? Or does kill himself later?
I had to make a choice.
So you can even look at this being, it's all Saul's fault because he just wanted a Padawan, and that's just basically resulted in the destruction of the cult and all of that stuff. Or it's the fault of the other mother for being too protective and just being a bad parent. That's the perspective. And looking outside perspective, there's clearly one answer.
May burned down the witch's fortress and everyone was lost.
Ah, so the other one that came up with the lie.
Ask yourself why you made this choice.
Okay, has some kind of nobility looking after the child here. See, this added stuff to those Jedi. This should have been done earlier, and before, or at least around their death, Like, explore each Jedi around their death. You don't have to do it all at once. It's like they've separated the flashbacks into 2 episodes when it could have been spread out to coincide with the Jedi when they die, so you can get a bit more understanding of who that Jedi was before they were killed.
On our way to Coruscant.
What happened?
And so the lie begins. Morally, it's iffy, but still, it seems a whole lot. It still seems light.
They started a fire.
You're lying to a kid, but it's to protect their feelings and their, like, future. Still didn't work out anyway. Plus, the cult was really backwards, and that is not a good environment to waste children. By all accounts, the best course of action was getting them out of there. Then things went chaotic. The mother was the one that basically caused the fire, because she is the one that encouraged May. The mother started the fire. What did Torben? He just showed up trying because he wanted to leave and go back to Coruscant. I don't like his character. He's stupid. Don't get if I'm meant to feel sorry for him or sympathy or whatever. He's just stupid. He's an idiot. And just killing himself just seems unjustified and just, again, stupid. Like, there's been 2, like, offings of oneself in Star Wars that I've seen, and both happened in Clone Wars. One was a servant in the Zygerian Empire who threw themselves off a building to escape slavery. That one felt earned, and it felt powerful and impactful. You also had a suicide bomber on Mandalore. That one felt powerful because it was about an ideology and trying to overthrow Satine and all of that stuff. Those felt powerful and impactful. Torben's, after this, it does not feel justified at all. So he had a bit of trauma in his past. Yeah, not even that big of a trauma as well. He's the one that went and did this stupid thing because of Anastasia reaching into his head and being all evil and stuff. And then, all these years later, he thought that he should shut himself away from the galaxy and let himself do nothing, and then eventually killed himself. That does not make for a good character in any way whatsoever. Yeah, so this episode, it was definitely meant to be like the big reveal, obviously. So we get to know what the Jedi did, we get to know all of this stuff, we got more information on what the Witches did, and I guess the Virgincy, which still wasn't clarified, which is kind of annoying. Yeah, so I get what this show is trying to do, it's trying to give different perspectives of what's going on, and only till you're aware of what it's trying to do can you actually understand this sort of aspect of the show. But still, when you're looking at good and bad and morality, and actually what is right and what is wrong, those things are absolute. There isn't like a moral justification for murdering someone. Say you can talk about moral rationalization, where if you might kill someone in self-defense, it's still a bad action, but it was the right thing to do, and it's not technically morally bad. This show, however, is basically trying to shift the perspective of showing a group of people that use the dark side, a group of people that use the light side, trying to equivalate them, saying, depending on the perspective, oh, this one might be actually right, this one might be wrong. It's not as black and white as it seems. And actually, take away the perspective, it is very black and white. The perspective is only there to try and make you feel something for all these characters that are doing bad things. Take away this perspective, and you can see what's actually right and wrong. You can see that the light side, which is an established thing in Star Wars, that the light side is the good thing. The light isn't just, oh, you do good things, that's the light side, and the bad side is just you doing bad things. The light side isn't so stereotypical good. It is, the light side is basically someone doing the will of the Force. That is the light side. Dark side is going against it. So a light action is just something that is going in the will of the Force, or just not using the Force if it doesn't want someone to use it. That is the light side. Palpatine isn't in the light side of the Force because he tries to impart his own will on it. His will to create life and all this stuff in Bad Batch. That is dark side stuff, because the Force doesn't want him doing that. It's got no intention of doing that itself. But the Witches are very clearly dark side, because they are imparting their will and using the Force as they want to use it. I mean, you can try and look at this in the sense that maybe both of them are using the light side of the Force, but it's really difficult. Like, the imagery they use and what they show off, all their powers show as, like, black and mist and stuff. Even the weird mist monster things that they did here. Black eyes, that does not help their case, and immediately makes an audience think that they're using the dark side. Try and think that they're using the light side might add something to this and make it seem like a misunderstanding. Like, it's very evidently just dark side. They're reaching into people's minds. They're doing bad things. You can say that it's self-defense and they're trying to protect themselves, but what are they protecting? They're trying to keep Osha here to teach her in the way of the dark side. They can call it what they want, but it is the dark side, because it is not the will of the Force. They don't understand it as the Force. They understand it as something else. So they are not doing the Force's will, they are doing their own will, simply because they don't understand what the Force is, making it inherently the dark side. That means they are teaching children to use the dark side, meaning that, looking outside of perspectives, there will be children that are in this cult, just in a bad environment for children anyway, because they were growing up without friends and all of this, and people their own age, that's just a dreadful environment, and they are going to be taught dark things and go straight into the dark side without actually learning what the light side is and what the will of the Force is. That is an inherently bad thing, that a good action would be to get them out of there and put them in the direction of the light side, or just not let them use the Force. that would be good. And that is without perspective. That isn't just the Jedi's perspective, that is without perspective. Because we know, the audience knows, outside of the Jedi perspective, what the light and dark mean. It is not morally subjective. Morality does not twist to someone's perspective. That just doesn't work. Morality is very absolute. I think just looking at this episode then, I will say good, I guess. The storytelling, yes, it was fine. It wasn't as bad as episode 3. It basically built on that and filled in the gaps. I just kind of wish that episode 3 and this one were either combined, so you got all the information near the end, like this one is, or they were spread out, so you got little hints to what happened in the past, and then a big reveal at the end. Having the two split between each other and have this one basically be from May's perspective, while the first one was Osha's perspective, is just very confusing. The show is trying to show so many different perspectives without actually realising who the audience is following and who the audience is going to understand where the story is coming from. It's just a very difficult show, and I think this one, I preferred the last one. Going to the final next, hopefully that will be better. It's basically, this didn't really add anything I didn't know, I guess, because it was pretty obvious that the Jedi did some bad things to the witches to make May go after them. And I guess even with the Jedi's choice to pick Osha over May, it feels like Soul is more of a main character than the other two, which is disappointing. If they can write Soul well, why can't they write all of them well? It's just annoying in that sense. But yeah, I feel like this still doesn't really add anything new to what the final could have. I feel like they could have gone straight into the final after the last one. What does this change between now and the past? Just that May knows, Osha doesn't know yet that Soul chose her over her sister, but it's a pretty easy decision. Either let them both die or let one of them die. And I think everyone is going to have a little bias within them. You killed the mum of one, it's going to be a whole lot easier for the other one to have a good life than the other, who's going to be constantly tormented by this. Yes, it's kind of bad to think of it like that way, but looking at the actual outcome of the situation, both of them are going to die. You can only save one that is going to have a better quality of life. That is sort of the only sort of way to look through it. You can show, what reason would you have for saving, when the only sort of difference between them is that one's going to have a worse quality of life. You can only save one of two people. One's going to have a worse quality of life. Doesn't mean their life holds any less value, that's said. But only one can be saved, which was this situation. Only one can be saved. One's going to have a good quality of life, one's going to have a bad quality of life. That's simply because the other one knew what Soul did, never going to look at them the same way, never going to see the Jedi the same way. They're going to be always against the Jedi. In that situation, it is best to save the one that is going to have a good life where they don't know about this stuff. When they're older, maybe tell them. But at this point, if you have to say, why would anyone let both of them die? That would be stupid. You can't save both. One's going to have to die. It's a sad decision, but realistically, that's the only option here. I think it's perfectly justified for Soul to make this decision, and I honestly don't blame him. It's a tricky decision. Either both die or one died, and now this one, Osha, had the chance of having a good life. Obviously, that didn't happen, but still, this action, perfectly justified. So yeah, obviously, in the next episode, Osha will learn about that, then we'll get whatever comes in the final. It's just... Obviously, her reaction is going to be bad, because that seems like the way it's going. The whole sister relationship is the core of the show, even though it has not been built that well between... We basically have more information, just more feeling towards their sisters rather than who they are as individuals. Yeah, so obviously Osha's going to learn. I feel like she's not going to be happy about it, and bad things will happen from there, even though Soul didn't really have a choice, and he did the best out of a bad situation. Right, so let's talk about this episode then. This one, I think it's... Last episode, probably better to me, but this one wasn't as bad as some of the other ones. I think this one was much better than episode 3, while it also delved into the past. There's things they can move around to make this one sort of flow better, but I think overall it's in line with the last episode, but I would say the last episode is better than this one. But what I think I do like about this one is that it shows that they can write good characters. Soul has been really well written, and now from this he's become a more complex character, going from like the good Jedi to one that's had to make a very tough choice in deciding which twin to save. Adds a lot of complexity to him, and honestly he is definitely my favourite character from the show. I think he's just very well written, and this has given him so much more, and it's just shocking that they can write him so well, yet that they can neglect all the other characters basically. Like, you can't say that any other character is at the same level as Soul is, and Soul isn't even the main character of the Acolyte. It's meant to be Osha and May. They do not stand anywhere near Soul. Yeah, so we finally get to see what Soul did in his crime, or whatever it was. I don't consider it a crime, but I'm guessing this is what he told May after she was restrained on the ship. So now even May knows that he chose to save Osha over her. But if you just look at the situation at large, it's not that bad. Like, in that situation, either both were going to die or only one was going to die. Sol made the right choice, I think, in just trying to save one. Yes, he had to choose, but who would blame him in that situation for choosing someone if they're both going to die? No one in their right mind would just let both die. You're going to have to choose one. So it doesn't really matter the reason. One's alive. That's all that matters in that. But yeah, then we got to see the other mother and their role in the whole downfall of the clan. So that because she was always very hostile. So now we now know, she encouraged May to not let Osha leave. I think it's interesting that they cut out the line about May wanting to kill Osha. That is incredibly telling, and it's not something you just throw out there and just ignore it now. That is basically a psychopath. No child goes around saying that they actually want to kill their sibling and then actually acts on it. That's not something a child does. Yes, you can say, oh, I wish you never born, oh, I'm going to kill you, but it's always done in a sort of a playful way. You never act on it. Normal kids don't do that. This child said it and then went to go do something. This episode actually showed some remorse, and I would have preferred if they sort of mingled these together, because now we've had 6 episodes where we've been viewing May as a psychopath, when actually she's more complex than that. But from the point of view of what the show has done, she still just looks like a psychopath, because they did not explain away the line of her wanting to kill her sister. Yeah, so we've got the bad other mother and how she's inciting all of this and how she kind of caused all this problem. If she did not go and tell May to stop Osha from leaving, there would be no fire, Osha would have gotten to leave, and everyone would have been happy, basically. So it's really all the other mother's fault. And just looking into why she did what she did, you can try and say it's more, she just doesn't like the Jedi. It's dark side. She let her hatred for the Jedi cloud her judgment into not letting her daughter go with them. That was basically it. If she had accepted Osha's choice and let her leave, everyone would have still been alive. But she chose to cling to her hate for the Jedi and wouldn't let her daughter join the thing that she hates the most. So she went and started all of this, resulting in the downfall of the entire clan. Now, we did see that I think that she escapes, so I'm assuming there's something else going on with her, that she'll end up doing something. So she is like the sole survivor of the clan, because we saw the rest of the witches die with the weird trance thing, and of course now we've seen how Anastasia died, but this one just disappeared in the mist. Now, it does make me confused with if the mist is in someone's mind or if it is actually physical, because otherwise her physical body would have just been there doing something, and yeah, it's confusing. But it does mean that she is alive, because her body is just gone then. But yeah, thinking of what this episode will do for Osha as a character. Again, this is the episode before the final, and you still have May and Osha just they've got nothing built for them. And this has built Sol, built him very well, but he is not the star of the show. It is meant to be Osha and May. So Osha is obviously leading up to her finding out this information and suddenly feeling a huge connection to May, feeling betrayed by Sol, that she lied to her this entire time, think that's justified, but her action, she can either choose to forgive and understand that this was an awful situation for someone to be in, and ultimately either one of you could survive or neither of you could survive. That was it. Would you prefer to die with your sister, or would you prefer to live? And look what happened, both of you lived. I'm guessing it's going to go down, because we've seen all the other Jedi die, so if my theory is right, this will paint the Jedi as the bad guys, and it will equal out, because the witches are gone, and now I'm guessing all these 4 Jedi are going to be gone. So I'm assuming Sol probably might kick the bucket, even though he's the most well-written. Like, again, the show is called The Acolyte, it's not called The Padawan. So that does make me concerned about what's coming there. It does make me concerned about how that's going to be written, though, because again, if you look perspective-wise, you can try and justify things, but it does not justify it completely. In this situation, Sol was right just regardless. He saved a life. No matter what, even if he chose to do this, it just requires a bit of high level of understanding of the situation to not blame him or be angry at him for doing this. So yeah, for Osha, I'm assuming she's going to find out and she's probably going to react badly, because that's just the way I'm assuming the show is going to go, because it's dealing with perspectives and moral ambiguity. As for May, I think this episode did benefit her, but this should have been far earlier with what it did for her. For 6 episodes now, we have seen her as the villain and as a psychopath, and it felt weird when they tried to show her as anything else. We got to see her say that she's going to kill her sister, and then she started a fire. That's what we got from her. Now it turns out she was pressured by her mum. She apparently might not have said that she's going to kill her sister, but this should have been involved there. But it's clear now that she is a more interesting and complex character than just a psychopath. But for the majority of the show, all we've known is that she's a psychopath. And when you try and do something with her that isn't relating to that, it does not work. This now makes it make sense, but it's too late. This should have been before that. This should have been from the get-go, that she's a sympathetic villain. That is what this basically revealed. She's not a psychopath, but you still played with the idea that she was one. That does not work. I would have much preferred if they just dropped the idea of her being a psychopathic villain and actually just show her as a sympathetic one. That's what this show has been leading to. It's what it hinted at with her going for revenge and all these personal killings. Why not just stick with having her be a sympathetic villain and actually try and convince the audience of her side of things, rather than show her during that grabby moment of, oh, I'm going to kill you so you can't leave. Cut that bit out. Just let her be sympathetic. So yeah, she's with Sol now, so of course she's probably more justified in hurting Sol, knowing that he chose to save her sister over her and let her die. That I can get on board with. If it ends up that Osha is angry at Sol for saving her life, that will be annoying. Yeah, because now May is currently the only one that knows that. So of course it's still got to get to Osha. But right now it's Sol and May, and maybe they can do something redeeming with May and make her in some kind of good, or show her some kind of light, because it's basically showed that she does have a good side to her and that she was pressured into doing this. So I do hope something can be built from that, because this did add stuff to her, but it is too late and it leaves her character a mess from everything we have seen previously. But of course, if you have watched the show and then you go back and watch through it, I'm sure it makes more sense. But since they have ordered it in such a weird way, it takes away a lot from her character. When they try and show her fearing for her life, trying to escape the Master, that would have been much better if we had known about this before episode 3. Right, now the witches. This is the weird bit. So, again, you can talk about this being a matter of perspective, but if you look outside of perspective and realise that morality is very black and white with some reasonable leeway, my example will always be, if you murder someone, that is a bad thing. If you murder someone in self-defense, it's still a bad action, but it was necessary. That is morality. This basically showed that, but then you got to conflate that with the idea of Star Wars, where morality is defined by the light and dark side. So that is very much black and white, light and dark. The witches practice the dark side of the Force. They're given to hate, which we have seen from the Mother. They're very close to it. They do not understand the full aspect of the Force, which probably means they're going to be led into the dark side a whole lot easier. And now you have children being raised to go into this, and their parents are very willing to basically die on this hill. They are going to be in this group. That is a very bad thing. You don't want children to be raised into this society, which doesn't understand this very powerful cosmic presence that could lead you to do absolute evil atrocities. That is not good, regardless of perspective. So at the point of view of the witches, you can say that they were living their lives just how they were. You can say that the Jedi came to their home, invaded, killed everyone, very bad, and they stopped them from doing their way of life. But when you look at the light and the dark side of the Force, it's basically a group of people practicing dark side stuff that has bad consequences for both those doing it and those surrounded by it. You want to raise children into it, and that's something they just don't understand. So looking at that perspective, where yes, you give them the benefit of the doubt that they don't understand it, but if you were to tell them, would they actually change their ways? That's, I think, a very much defining thing here. If you were to tell the witches that what they're doing is wrong and it's part of the dark side, and gave them the information that there is a light and dark side of the Force, it's better to use the light side, because otherwise you're going to end up doing all kinds of awful things, would they change their ways? I think probably not. They seem very stubborn, very stuck in their ways. They hold a lot of hatred for the Jedi. That means they're very clearly already in the dark side of the Force. There isn't really a saving them option here. The only good thing that can come out of this, if you get the children away from this and stop them from being raised in this dark side environment. Then we also got to see the weird smoke things. So we got some more stuff on Mother Anastasia and seeing her power, how she got into the mind of Torben. More on that later. But we got to see her also become a big smoke monster and get stabbed, and you had that scene where she was saying she was going to let her go. Why on earth would you turn into a massive smoke monster for that purpose? Yes, I understand you're trying to stop the other Mother from attacking the Jedi to make things worse, so you want to try and get in the way, and I'm assuming she was trying to get into their heads to stop them. That was such a bad idea. Because of course the Jedi are going to see it as a threat. I think anyone would see it as a threat. You're coming off as this dark entity, so of course they're going to stab you. You're also being attacked by another member of the Coven, and then you see the head of it turn into this weird creepy thing. Of course you're going to lash out. I feel like that scene is meant to make you feel sympathy for her, but it just doesn't work. Again, I think this plays down to the idea that the writer understands what story they're trying to tell, but the way they're conveying it to the audience doesn't work. It's very clear that they want you to feel sympathy for this witch and the Coven as a whole, but the way it's structured and written and the way the audience perceives it does not come off that way. It comes off as very much that the witches are in the wrong, they've done a lot of stuff kind of stupid that has ended up getting them killed. Yes, that's kind of bad, but they were also in the dark side of the Force, and they were going to raise more children to go into the dark side of the Force. Then we got to see the other Mother turn into smoke and escape, so I'm assuming she's out there somewhere now, because we didn't see her die, she just turned into mist. That's the last thing we saw of her. So I'm assuming she's out there doing something and whatever's going on there. Feels like it's too late to build something from that. That might be like maybe a post-credit scene for something in the future. Feels like it's kind of a too loose end to do something with in the final. Been 16 years, she hasn't done anything since then. There's no presence of her in the present day of the show, so I feel like she's just not going to get answers on that. Yeah, the smoke, the imagery that they've used, I feel like they've done it purposefully to try and make the audience think that they're dark side, but give it a positive spin. But I think it would have been much more appropriate to just give them light side looking stuff. Use light strings as marionettes, sort of dolls, to control people, to make it look like the thread and also light side. Having them come off with black eyes and black smoke is very powerful imagery, and it's also just going to make any audience view it as dark side when it might not necessarily be, or at least that's what they're trying to say it isn't. But also when you look deeper into it, it's very much the dark side. It's very simple. There's a dark side cult that they're going to lead the children into and raise them as. Aside from the very evident use of the dark side of the Force, we also got mentions of the Night Sisters. So cool that they're still around 100 years before, and that they're not recent things. They've just been doing all their stuff and whatever. But they said something weird that they don't sort of recruit Padawans or children. That seems odd. So that's basically saying that the Night Sisters are just completely immortal. Because we do know from the Clone Wars that is Savage said a line, or that village, that they set up the culture really well with just an odd line. Because Savage initially thought that Ventress was a mate. So obviously the tribes, the Night Sisters themselves, use the males to impregnate themselves and have children to restock their numbers. That's what they do. They have mothers within the coven, so they have their own offspring and they do it like that. That seems perfectly fine according to the Jedi of the present. But to these guys, they say that they don't do that, unless I'm confused there. But that, I guess this isn't really that important. It was just a throwaway thing, which just confused me a little bit. Then you have the Jedi, and I think this episode would have been, again, much better having it sprinkled out to when the Jedi are dying. So when you have Dara, I still wouldn't have killed her in the first episode. Have her sort of killed in episode 2 with the 2-episode premiere, but have it go back and forth between the present and the past, getting to see the personality of Undara, get to see the origin of the twins in the first episode, get a good story going about why someone's going, first episode immediately, go flashback between the present day and the past, and have it end with Undara's death. You give Undara plenty of time in the past to get a personality and get some attachment from the audience, while also explaining the situation of the twins. Then, on the next killing, go along present day story, but as you're building up to Torbin's death, show him more of the past so that the audience can understand where his death is coming from, what he did, or sort of hints at what he did to make his death seem very bad. And I would do the same for the Wookiee Jedi. But Torbin's character is not great. And Dara, I liked her. She came off as quite nice towards the kids, but she also came off as she was 50-50, I think. Came off nice towards the kids. She was rational, understanding, but she started the lie, so that wasn't a great thing on her part. But I think she did come off as one of the more rational Jedi. Yeah, then you have Torbin, who's just a complete idiot. He got bored on a planet, so he wanted to leave. That is his motivation. And then that led him to kill himself. That is so dumb, and it kind of takes away from how meaningful a suicide is, or their impact is not really meaningful. Suicide is a bad thing. Just saying that outright is a bad thing. But when you do it in shows, you've got to make sure it has an impact, because it's a very powerful thing. We've seen it in the Clone Wars twice. There was a Twi'lek slave on Zygerian Empire where she threw herself off a building to escape slavery. There was a suicide bomber on Mandalore who was opposing Satine's rule. Those very impactful and powerful. Their death served a meaning when you barely knew the character. They didn't really have a character to them, but they were still very powerful. This, you actually got to know the character, and their death seems stupid, which is not a good look. Yeah, aside from Torbin and just being an idiot and then a coward and then just all of that bad stuff, I want to go back to Saul and just look at what he did again. So yeah, it's just interesting what ideas they're playing with. Why did Saul do this? They're trying to place the blame on him, that he went to disturb the witches, which started everything apparently, and they're saying that that's a bad thing. They should have just been left alone. That is where the writer is coming from. Everything should have been left alone, everything would have been fine. But the fact that Saul interfered led to all of the catastrophe. But why did Saul interfere? He interfered because he thought that Osha was meant to be his Padawan. Obviously, that didn't turn out right, so he was wrong, and that means that his decision that led to this was inevitably flawed, so he shouldn't have done this. That's what it's trying to say. That's what Undara basically meant by saying, think about why you chose to do this sort of thing. Was it because you thought she was meant to be your Padawan, or because you wanted a Padawan? That is basically showing that Saul is selfish, or he's meant to be selfish, and that he's actually an inherently bad person who just thought of themselves and that wanted to have a Padawan, because I think Undara teased him at one point for not having a Padawan, and she did. Then when you look at the larger scale of things, the witches are inherently dark side. They're teaching children into the dark side of the Force, and the Jedi are obviously the light side of the Force because they are doing the will of the Force. So of course you want to get children out of that environment, making it inherently good. Then at the end, when it's meant to be a signal of a bad thing, he saves one of the sisters because otherwise both would have died. So this episode tried to make Saul I keep wanting to say Saul, like S-A-U-L instead of S-O-L. So this episode tried to make Saul look like a bad guy, and it tried to make it look like it very hard, building up this character that was very good for a long time, now showing his flaws here, trying to make it look like he has this insane guilt for what he did. Yes, I think you can feel guilty and you can have some self-blame, but looking at the bigger picture, he's not to blame. He got the kids out of a bad situation, he also was put in an impossible situation where he had to choose between saving one life or letting them both die. I think he made the good decision there. But I think this episode tried painfully hard to paint Saul as a bad guy through the lens of the witches and looking at through perspectives. When you forget about perspectives and think moral relativism, it becomes very clear who's right and who's wrong, because morality is not subjective. As for what's next, I don't know. We're going into the final. The show is definitely very messy. I have enjoyed moments, but I think at the end of this, I'm going to think it's a very mediocre show with a little above. It's just mediocre flatline, because they have had good moments, but that kind of cancels out the really bad episode 3. So as for what's next, I'm assuming it'll go back to Chimera, Osha, go back to the present day. Osha will obviously learn about what's happened, because now May has, because this was basically Saul talking to May, and this is basically showing it. And then it'll come down to whether or not she has the higher level of understanding to realise that Saul made the right decision about the light and the dark side of the Force, and to save her life compared to letting them both die, or she'll make a stupid decision and try and go with her sister and hate Saul for not saving her sister and letting them be separated. So that'll be weird. Also hope they do some more with the Virgins thing. I feel like that needs a lot more explanation. I feel like the tree is the Virgins. That thing looks like it stands out. And I would like it much. So my idea of it, from what I'm understanding from this episode, is that the Force created a thing, and then that thing has been used by the witches to create life. So there's a thing, some weird object or MacGuffin or whatever, that has allowed them to do this very powerful thing. So it's not a mortal sort of person using the power of the Force to do something that they really should not be. It is them using something created by the Force to do the thing they should not be. So again, dark side of the Force, they're not going with the will of the Force. Because they basically explain that all the planets nearby are desolate from a hyperspace accident, but only this planet has life. And that means the grass, the trees, all of it, that was created by the Virgins. I doubt the witches would have done all of that. I'm assuming that whatever this thing was, it landed on the planet, revitalized it, the witches moved here, used it to create children. I would assume that Virgins is the tree. That feels very much in sync, because you have so many images of... Could you have so many different interpretations with what trees represent in different mythologies and all that, like world tree in Norse mythology. So I feel like the tree is going to be a very important thing. So I'd assume that tree is what allowed them to create life. And it's been the centre point for both May and Osha. So I'm assuming that thing is what the Virgins actually is. Which would be a whole lot better than it actually being Anasea being the one to create the children. Overall, I think this episode, again, is mediocre. Wasn't as good as the last episode. The last episode was only good because of Chimera and Osha's side of the story. This one was mediocre and going back to the past, but it's a better thing, because this was set in the same episode 3, but it dealt with the events better, and I wish that we just got this instead of episode 3. This basically told the same thing, but did it so much better. We didn't need the confusion of episode 3, and it just sucked anyway. So this was so much better, episode 3, but just looking at it objectively, it's mediocre. Again, you deal with a lot of different things and confusion with what the writer's trying to do compared to what the audience is getting from this. Because again, it's very clear that they understand their story very well, and I commend them for that, being able to work through this story, but they have not been able to convey it in a way for the audience to understand. They understand it, but the audience cannot, because of how confusing they have made it, and trying to jump between so many different perspectives when this show is obviously going to just be standard within Osha's perspective. For a viewer to get the whole picture, they need to be told from the start to not look at Osha's perspective and look at every single perspective that this show is offering, which it juggles a lot. So it's going to be very confusing no matter what. And really the only way to sort of enjoy it is to find the little moments that are very just surface level. The fight scenes, the villain, none of that is quite deep. That is the stuff that I can enjoy, because when it goes deeper, it gets lost in the confusion of what the writer is trying to convey. Hopefully the next episode can just end on a good note, hopefully. because I feel like it's definitely gotten better towards the end now. It's definitely better from episode 1, 2, and 3. So this has been an improvement. Hopefully it ends on a good note, and I can just say goodbye to the show in a positive way and sort of have the last thing I remember be a good thing, not all the mistakes that it's made. I'm sure the final will be littered with mistakes because like literally every episode has sort of those flaws in there. But it'll be interesting to see how the writer decides to finish this show with how they've been juggling around perspectives and how they've sort of misunderstood how the audience views it. I'll be interested to see what they are trying to do, because the witches are gone, now it's Chime's turn. So Chime is taking the place of the witches when we're looking at perspectives. So it'll be interesting to see what the writers intended versus what has actually happened. With that said, that does bring me to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments. Did you like it? Didn't you? But yeah, with that, I will see you in the next episode for the season final. See ya!